folks are able to see the presentation. A reminder again that we are recording this session so that we can share it in an email. You'll have the links that are presented in the presentation, and we'll also be listing it on the website. Can folks see my screen? Thumbs up?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and spotlight the presenters here so that we're able to be visible. So welcome again, everyone. We'll do a welcome to the session on the Dream.Us scholarship and other scholarship opportunities for undocumented and immigrant students. The presenters here are myself. My name is Cynthia Carvajal. I am the CUNY Director for Undocumented and Immigrant Student Programs. This is a brand new department. We're in our third year, I believe, in centralizing resources for undocumented and immigrant students. And I'm joined here by Hayne Lee from TheDream.Us. I'll let Hayne introduce herself.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Hayne Lee. I'm the Director of Programs and Evaluation at TheDream.Us. We're the nation's largest college and career success program for undocumented students.
Great. So what we're going to talk about today is, first, I'm just going to start off with defining what an immigrant student is. I got a couple of emails asking who these services will be directed towards. We'll talk about specifically the Dream.Us scholarship, as that is the focus of this presentation. Then I'll provide some additional financial aid resources that are available as a CUNY student outside of the CUNY, and then CUNY-based resources that can also help you support your students who are navigating their immigration status and their educational experience. We did originally have a student who was gonna join us. They're unfortunately not able to make it, so we won't be able to share the student experience as listed in the agenda. But we will we'll talk more about. We'll have an opportunity to answer questions at the end of the presentation. If folks have questions, please put them in the chat. I'll be sure to get to them either at the end of the presentation, or if they're relevant to the information that I'm providing, I'll be sure to answer then. But like I said, first we want to really define what we mean by immigrant student. So here are some categories listed below. So we see students without a formal status. This is someone who's undocumented, someone who has asylum pending, so they haven't been granted asylum. They could have an employment authorization document, but they're still waiting for the courts. They're waiting to meet with lawyers to get that asylum status. There's also students with temporary status. So this is deferred action for childhood arrivals, DACA, TPS, temporary protective status. So this is temporary. None of these lead to a pathway to citizenship. They're just meant to kind of be renewed. Students with a pathway to citizenship. So these are individuals who may identify as refugee, asylum granted, U visa, T visa, and any of the other statuses listed here. These potentially lead to a pathway to citizenship, which is why we've listed them under here. And then lastly, also students who are impacted. So these are individuals whose parents may be undocumented. They may be formally undocumented or recently naturalized citizens. So that's what we mean when we say immigrant student. However, when we talk about the criteria of who's eligible for certain scholarships, we'll delve a little bit deeper into that, because some of these statuses may be eligible, others may not. And so, yes, okay. So continue adding your questions to the chat. If it's relevant to the information here, I'll speak on it. And if it's not, we'll definitely address it at the end of the presentation. So now I'm going to hand it over to Hayne to share with us about the Dream.Us scholarship.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. And again, I just want to thank you, Cynthia, for hosting this event and helping us get the word out about different supports for undocumented students, a real timely subject. And we're just so grateful to have this platform to share more about our scholarship, which is called the Dream.Us National Scholarship. Go to the next slide, please. All right, so who are we? We are, as I mentioned before, the nation's largest college and career success program for undocumented students. We started originally in 2014. This is actually our 10-year anniversary year. So since then, we've awarded over 10,000 scholarships to undocumented students. We are a national program, so we work with colleges across the United States. And we have now over 3,600 undocumented college graduates We anticipate to hit 4,000 this year. And we work with specific colleges in 21 states across the country and Washington, D.C., with over 80 partner institutions. I'll go over a little more in depth on who we work with in New York, but obviously CUNY, we work as a system. And then ultimately, we hope to have over 75% of our students graduate in 150% time. So to give a brief overview of who our scholars are, so as Cynthia mentioned, we work specifically with undocumented students, either students who have crossed the border or who arrived on a visa and overstayed their visa and so no longer have any lawful status in this country. Unlike a lot of other scholarships that are available to undocumented students, we actually do not have any country of origin specifications or racial or ethnic specifications to be eligible for the scholarship. A lot of undocumented students are Latinx, but our students come from all around the world. They come from over 120 countries, and the average age of arrival to the United States for our 10,000 scholars is 4. So Cynthia will talk a little more about the broader resources available at CUNY to the larger undocumented population, but our scholarship is more specific to students who have arrived to this country at a younger age and have lived here for quite some time. And this speaks to the demand of the over 98,000 undocumented high school students that are graduating from our public schools every year in America. So we exist to serve the very, very large problem that undocumented students face when they try to access college, which is lack of any type of federal financial aid. So of the 10,000 scholarships we've awarded so far, right now we have 4,000 enrolled in higher ed institutions across the country. And another really important thing to note now is that 70% of our scholarship recipients are fully undocumented. When we first started the program, we originally were a DACA and TPS only program, so those who had deferred action for childhood arrivals or temporary protected status. The majority of those students now have graduated out of our system, and we have a younger generation of students who are not eligible for these programs because those eligibility requirements are now outdated. So 70% of our students do not have a social security number, and they have even fewer pathways to accessing financial aid to complete college, but also raises the question of their career pathways. And so our organization supports not just the financial aid needed to enroll in college, but also provide resources and work very closely with our partners like Cynthia at CUNY to understand what professional development opportunities we can provide our growing group of fully undocumented students. So you'll see here lastly that our students are very much in the applied space. We have a large number of aspiring nurses, engineers, teachers, and they very much want to pursue pathways that give back to their communities. Okay, so I mentioned before that TheDream.Us partners with particular colleges. One of the reasons why is we believe that our scholarship recipients should have no out-of-pocket costs for the cost of tuition and mandatory fees. We're very, very fortunate to partner with CUNY as a system, and due to the very affordable cost of tuition and fees, with our scholarships, we find that the majority, if not most, of our scholarship recipients that are commuter students will graduate from CUNY debt-free because of our scholarship program. And so we work with colleges who are committed to serving undocumented students, and you'll see that our students are performing above national averages. They're doing amazing when it comes to academic performance, with 92% returning for their second year in college, 75% persisting overall, and a 76% 6-year graduation rate for those who start at a 4-year institution. Okay, so what is our scholarship and what are the specifics of it? I will drop just the link to our general website so you can take a look as well. But we have a national scholarship that goes out to students in the state of New York, and it is an award of up to $39,000. This includes $33,000 that can be used over 6 years for tuition and fees, and then another $6,000 in stipends. So for every semester that a student is enrolled with our scholarship, they will also receive $750 per semester in stipends. This can be used towards books, supplies, transportation, any other academic related costs. and students will get that $750 for up to 4 years of funding. And the $33,000 for tuition and fees, again, is up to 4 years of full funding that can be used over a 6-year period of time. The application round always opens for us November 1st. So it's been open since last November, and our deadline to apply is at the end of February this year for students who want to start in the summer and in the fall. All right, so in terms of who this scholarship is for, I'm going to go through the eligibility criteria in the next couple of slides. We'll start with their immigration status. So it's very important for students to know that they do not have to have DACA. They do not have to have TPS. They can be fully undocumented. A U visa also falls under this category. They may be applying for asylum, but as soon as they receive asylum, they're eligible to start receiving federal financial aid. But as long as they're in some type of process of adjusting their status from being undocumented, they are eligible to apply for this award, with the caveat that they must have arrived before the age of 16 and before November 1st, 2018. So as I mentioned earlier, we are working with a group of students who have arrived a little earlier on in their childhood years. They came to the United States and have been living in the United States for at least 5 years prior to the application round opening. So every year, our that date of arrival requirement will move up by 1 year. So we do require that our applicants have been living in the United States for at least 5 years prior to applying for the scholarship. So the two key things are have arrived before the age of 16 and arrived before November 1st, 2016. And then in terms of academic requirements, we used to only be open to first-time college students and community college graduates transferring to a 4-year to obtain their bachelor's degree, but we have opened up the scholarship since last year to be open to all continuing students, all first-time college students. If they're already enrolled at a community college or already enrolled at a 4-year, they can still now apply to the scholarship program. We just have, in terms of academic requirements, that they have earned their high school diploma or GED by the end of this spring and plan to enroll this summer or fall or next spring. And their GPA must be at a 2.5 or higher. So for students in New York, they must be eligible for that in-city tuition rate if they're enrolling at CUNY. We work with 18 CUNY campuses here in the city of New York. And then we also recently have partnered with 3 SUNY campuses. So we do have 2 partner colleges out in Long Island. One is SUNY Old Westbury, and the other is Farmingdale State College. And then we also have a partnership with University at Albany. So those are also 3 SUNY campuses that students can apply for the scholarship to. And then in the CUNY system, we see a lot of movement. So if a student starts at BMCC, gets their scholarship, they can take that scholarship and transfer it over to City College, Lehman College. And some students, if they're eligible to continue to be eligible for in-state tuition and can commute, they also have transferred out to one of our SUNY campuses as well. Oh, sorry, I covered that in this slide. I thought I had that in another slide. Thank you, Cynthia. All right, so in terms of the actual application, we have a very straightforward application. The link to apply is included in that web link I dropped in the chat. I'll drop it one more time if you want to share it with your students. But essentially, we do not ask for any type of documentation when it comes to their financial records or their immigration records. So everything is 100% self-reported. We ask for basic information. We do not collect any addresses, but we do collect basic demographic profile questions. So name, the state of where they're living, whether they meet our eligibility requirements for their immigration status. Everything is self-reported, including household income. The only thing that they do have to upload is their unofficial transcripts. They do not have to be official versions. And then we do ask for one essay that's about 750 word. That's a 750 word limit, where we ask them to share about how being undocumented has impacted their trajectory in life, their goals, their vision for the future. And we also take into account a lot of the different responsibilities they hold outside of school. So we know that so many of our undocumented students are the translators for their families, they're volunteering at a local church, they're helping out with their siblings. So we ask for all those different types of external responsibilities, and we want to emphasize that we're not an academically rigorous scholarship program. So we're not looking for students who are in the top 5% of their graduating class. We're really looking for students who have that ambition and desire to go to college, succeed, and then pursue a meaningful career. All right, so as I mentioned before, the only thing that the student needs to upload as part of the application is their unofficial transcript, which needs to be in a PDF format. We have a lot of issues with students uploading pictures of their transcripts. So if you are advising or working with students, we require that they submit a PDF copy, and then they can go in and track in their application to make sure that the application was submitted properly with the right transcript copy. The application platform will let students know if it's not in the right format, and it must be in the right format for the application to be reviewed. All right, so as we tell students, actually we can go to the next slide here, Cynthia, on what to expect. The application round opened November 1st. It'll close at the end of February, and then announcements go out in late April. So students need to just be mindful of checking their email, checking their application status to make sure it was completed. And then we generally tend to have award notifications go out towards the end of April, so they can determine by May 1st, decision day, whether or not they can commit to their partner college. And the other part of this is we always tell our applicants that they must be applying to both our scholarship and for general admissions to CUNY if they want to enroll. Sometimes students think that by applying to the scholarship, it also gains them admissions to their partner college. So we also always remind those who are working with our students and our students directly that they must be applying to admissions to both the scholarship program as well as the CUNY campus they're interested in enrolling at. All right, so we always emphasize that we are more than just a scholarship. We do understand that the financial barriers are one of the steepest barriers that undocumented students have to overcome to access college, but we also know that the buck doesn't stop there. So we always want to remind our students that particularly now with the political instability, with the rising anti-immigrant sentiment, that we want to make it very clear that now is the time to go to college. And so we always remind our students that once they join the scholarship program, that they'll be joining a big community. At CUNY alone, we've done almost 2,000 scholarships within the CUNY systems to date. CUNY has been a partner with us from the get-go in 2014. That means we've also shared a 10-year legacy with CUNY, and our students feel a big sense of pride knowing that they're alongside hundreds and now thousands of their peers in the CUNY system. We have a great social network where they can connect on a private Facebook community where they connect with not just scholars in the CUNY system, but across the country. And we also work with partner colleges because we have designated advisors, great folks like Cynthia on each campus who are committed to working with undocumented students, the liaisons. Our students always report high sense of belonging and a sense of connection, knowing that there are staff on campus who are really looking out for them. And we go beyond, as I mentioned at the beginning, just providing the scholarship to go to school to pay for tuition and fees. We have a number of different internship, fellowship opportunities. We know that navigating the career development space without a social security number can be a challenge for students, especially when they're so young in their college and career journey. So we also aim to provide different services and resources and programming that can help the career development of our undocumented students as well. So the last thing I'll also mention here on this slide is just the fact that we're also very much involved in the national conversation on immigration. Because we have 10,000 undocumented college students across the country, we have a wealth of data and information on the impact of a college degree on the lives of our undocumented youth and how they now contribute in the economy, in their families, and their communities. So just to emphasize that we are really more than just a scholarship helping students pay for college. All right, so just reiterating a point I made earlier here, one of the things we love to tell our students is that students are really questioning right now, is this the time when financial need at home is so high, whether I should get a college degree or not. And we really want to emphasize that now is the time, especially with this scholarship, to have an opportunity to get your college degree at CUNY debt-free. It's an incredible opportunity that having that college degree will open new doors. It will open new networks. And eventually, should there be any type of immigration reform that would allow this large group of undocumented youth to adjust their status, having a college degree is something that can't be taken away and can be very beneficial in that process of adjusting their status. So we always encourage that higher education is still so important, even in this changing economy, to pursue. So I think that's the last slide there. Just another link here in terms of if you want more specific information on our scholarship program. And then I think the last slide was a quote from one of our alumni. We can go to the next slide. Just as a reminder that immigration status shouldn't stop students from pursuing their college education. And I see a lot of questions coming in the chat, so I'll try to answer them as we move on to Cynthia's portion. Okay. But really quickly, I know this goes back to Cynthia's original point that international students are not part of this pool. So if a student is on a valid visa, then they do have some type of lawful status in this country. This is for students who have no lawful status, are not on a valid visa. If they were on a valid visa and overstayed and it expired, then, for example, that student would be eligible for the scholarship, but not if they are currently on an F1 visa.
Thank you so much, Tane. There were a lot of questions in the chat specific to the TheDream.Us. I'll let you answer them as I continue with the presentation. For any that are not specific to the TheDream.Us, we're going to come back to them. So don't think that I forgot your questions. I did see them, and so I'm keeping kind of a mental note of going back to these questions. And then, yes, the slides will be sent over in an email. And then I can also share them at the end of this presentation so that folks can have them right away. But yes, we're going to move on. Please continue adding your questions in the chat. Hayne will answer those that are specific about the TheDream.Us, and then I'll answer the other ones. Okay, so we talked about the TheDream.Us, and you may think like, oh, well, some of these are not applicable to my students. Maybe they're not receiving in-state tuition, or they do have some kind of valid status, or they also still need more support in addition to the scholarship. So I'm going to talk about some financial supports that are available at CUNY that students can also access. And so first, I'm going to go through some scholarships that are available at CUNY that we've partnered with to provide specifically to this population. So we partnered with the Hispanic Federation to provide funds for tuition support or grocery assistance. This does require the campus to have a liaison to help manage the funds. So you'll see Hostos is here, so is Queens, so is John Jay. If your campus is not here, please email me and we can work with the liaison and to figure out, or with the campus president to figure out who can be that person to manage the funds. But the Hispanic Federation is interested in expanding to other CUNY campuses as well. But you'll see here, it's a small stipend for grocery assistance. It has a certain criteria for individuals to apply. Specifically, that criteria being that they're not eligible to apply to financial aid, to federal financial aid. Other scholarships that are also available that you can share with your students, Golden Door Scholars is open to anyone who is undocumented and but specifically has DACA or TPS, and anyone who has an interest in software engineering, nursing, data analytics. So if this is within the majors, within the field that you teach and you study, please consider sharing this with your students who may be eligible for it. And then there's also the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, right? So this is, again, specific to U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents or those with DACA. So please be mindful of those criteria when sharing with your students. And yes, some examples of private scholarships, right? Additionally, I'll share some websites at the end of the presentation that will list who are the liaisons, what are some other scholarships that are available for students, how to pay for college, information about in-state tuition. But I did want to introduce at least 3 additional scholarships that are either CUNY-based or that a lot of our CUNY students receive, to make sure that you can also see that there's more scholarships available for this population of students. What is also available is, as of 2019, New York State DREAM Act provides access to state aid to undocumented students. State aid being the TAP program, so the tuition assistance program, Excelsior scholarship, opportunity programs like SEEK, CD, ASAP, HEOP, EOP, STEM incentive program. These are all available to undocumented students so long as they meet the eligibility criteria. And so I forgot that if I click on the picture, it takes me to the link. But for the next slide, you'll see that the education eligibility for the New York State DREAM Act is as follows. You have to have attended a New York State high school for 2 or more years and graduated, or enrolled or like sought to enroll in a New York State college within 5 years of receiving your high school diploma. Or if you received an equivalency diploma and enrolled or sought to enroll in an undergraduate study at a New York State public college within 5 years of receiving the New York State equivalency. Or if they're being charged in-state tuition at a SUNY or a CUNY for any reason other than residency. The last kind of box is specific eligibility criteria for graduate school. And so the top 3 are for undergraduate, the bottom is for graduate school. There are technically graduate funds through the New York State DREAM Act, but they're extremely limited to individuals studying nursing, teaching, folks who are veterans, and social work. And so that limits who's able to access those resources. There are also other eligibility criteria, but those are the ones that kind of stump our students the most. In this presentation, you'll be able to click here and it'll take you to the HESC website that has additional eligibility criteria. But it really just comes down to immigration status. It has to be someone who's undocumented, has DACA, TPS, asylum pending, any of those statuses that are listed on the website. And emphasizing again, international students are not included within this group because international students have access to other resources through the valid student visa. This is for individuals who don't have a valid source of documentation. If you have folks who have already applied to the New York State DREAM Act but are finding it difficult to navigate, our office has an inquiry form that you can click on here that will help you access or help your students access a form to fill out where they can get more information and more help on how to get their money at their campus. We are experiencing quite a bit of students who have applied, have received an award, and their campus never gets the funds. So please encourage them to fill out this form if that is the case, and someone from our office can help them within a week or 2. What I want to share with this particular group is primarily this was advertised to faculty, so faculty at the CUNY campuses. And I want to emphasize this memo that exists at CUNY, the General Counsel 2018 memo that essentially states that scholarships and other payments from private funds are available to students regardless of immigration status. And so what does this mean for you as a faculty member? It means that if you have access to private money, you can provide that to anyone regardless of immigration status. The key factor is that you want to make sure you provide it as a non-wage stipend and not as like a wage or a personnel compensation, because undocumented students can't be on payroll and so therefore can't receive those funds. But if you provide it as a non-wage stipend, they can receive those funds. For DACA recipients, TPS, people with asylum pending who have an employment authorization card, you can put them on payroll. But for everybody else, you want to make sure to make that a non-wage stipend. And so you may be wondering, like, well, how do I do that? It's really a focus on how you frame the opportunity in your grants or in like the request for the payment processing. You want to make sure that it's something to the effect of experiential learning, which is considered a non-wage opportunity. The compensation then is for students to like participate in research projects, to learn from mentorship opportunities, to attend workshops. And these are considered non-wage and can be processed as OTPS, so other than personnel stipends. Faculty were able to use this process to for the DEI funds, if folks are familiar with those, to include students regardless of immigration status. The link here gives you a presentation that explains a little bit more about that so that you're also able to apply it for your campuses. And if you have any questions about those, please put them in the chat and I can expand a little bit more. And so some folks I saw in the chat had questions about, well, how can they access in-state tuition if they received their high school from a foreign country? What are some other scholarships that are available? They need a GED to be eligible for the New York State DREAM Act. How do they do that? This guide created by one of our student fellows has all of that information and more. So you'll see a QR code on the screen. There's also a link here that you can click on that will take you to the guide itself. Please review that. Please share it with your students. It's incredibly comprehensive. So you want to make sure that students are able to access it so they are able to see the resources available to them. And so I've been talking about all these resources, and you're also like, well, where's all this information? How can I find it? I'm going to share with you 4 websites at CUNY that have all of this information listed on it. So you can begin engaging with it, looking through it, sharing with your students. CUNY.edu/immigrant has information about centers, the liaisons at each of the CUNY campuses, which I'll talk a little bit more about in just a couple minutes. There's also trainings for educators, faculty, staff on how to be an undocumented ally, how to career advise undocumented students, how to provide stipends to undocumented students. And then also some policies relevant to students. So if you need to show that 2018 memo to someone in your budget office to make sure that you're able to provide funds, that's listed on that website. Also information, if you're in an education program and your students need to do student teaching, how you can help them get fingerprinted so that they're able to go to the schools, private schools anyway, not DOE, to do their student placement. Also information about in-state eligibility and how to make sure your students are eligible for programs like SEEK, CD, and ASAP. Another website, this one's catered more towards students, is cuny.edu/undocu. This has information about understanding students' immigration statuses, how can they pay for college, so more scholarship information, resources on how to work regardless of immigration status, how to get an ITIN number, an individual tax identification number, which can help them get compensated for different opportunities. Information on graduate and professional schools. I saw a couple of questions about, like, how is this apply to graduate and professional schools? What does this look like? This website has information on that. And then some publicly available and governmental resources open to undocumented students, including legal, healthcare, and education. The next website is cuny.edu/NYSDA, which stands for New York State DREAM Act. This has information on the New York State DREAM Act and how students can access it, step-by-step guides, video guides, as well as kind of a breakdown of what to be sure to do in order to get the funds. And then lastly, cuny.edu/TheDream.Us. Hayne has been sharing the direct link to the Dream.Us website. And this is the CUNY-based one that references that website and also provides recorded sessions about the scholarship, how to apply to CUNY as an undocumented student, and more information. And so some folks had questions about, like, well, who are the liaisons, like, at the campuses? Who can I reach out to? So I want to share that each campus president assigned a immigrant student success liaison at their campus, at least 2. And so these individuals meet with me once a month to receive trainings and provide resources and support. I want to emphasize that these liaisons, this is not their full-time job. They do this in addition to their full-time role. Sometimes they're financial aid specialists or career advisors, with the exception of John Jay, Brooklyn, Hunter College, and now City College. This means that these are the individuals that can work with you, can help advocate for resources with students with you. And if you're curious, like, well, why do these 4 campuses have centers, but my campus doesn't? Happy to have a conversation about that and seeing how we can connect with other faculty and staff and liaisons to see how we can make that a possibility. And so first, I want to share information about the Immigrant Student Success Centers in the campuses. So John Jay's campus was the first campus to have an Immigrant Student Success Center in the state of New York. To give you kind of an idea of what this looks like across the country, if you have colleagues in California, every public university is mandated to have one of these centers available for undocumented and immigrant students, and they're provided funds to do so. So all the UC campuses, all the Cal State campuses have one of these centers. Texas has 3, New Jersey has 1, and those are and then Illinois has 1, I believe, as well. But you'll see kind of here how this is happening across the country. But John Jay's was the first in the state of New York. President Carol Mason saw it as a priority after student advocates highlighted that they really needed this resource, and now it's being led by Denise Bivar. You can follow them on Instagram. They have a ton of resources, and please share that Instagram with your students. Brooklyn College has the second in the state, led by Jesus Perez, and Leslie Ramirez is also there, who provides who's the coordinator at the center as well. You can also follow them on Instagram. Please share their Instagram with your students to access information and resources. And City College of New York will be opening theirs this semester. It'll be led by Daniela Alulema, who will be the director of the Immigrant Student Research and Resource Center. This was created after students advocated, protest, did a banner drop to highlight why they really needed this resources for undocumented students at the campuses. And so if you're interested, if you're at City College, you're interested in hearing more, in addition to the liaison list where Daniela's email is listed, you'll also see like to sign up for their listserv so you can get information as well. Hunter College is in the process of starting an Immigrant Student Success Center. They have been able to identify a full-time Immigrant Student Success Manager, and they also hired a part-time coordinator to help with the center. They're finalizing the physical space now, but there's a link here for the campus contacts as well. For campuses that don't have centers, there are some more comprehensive efforts at some of our campuses. So they're called initiatives. And so they provide some resources, are able to provide one-on-one support, but again, they don't have a budget, they don't have a full-time person, so the resources are limited. Queens College being one of them. And so they have an incredible newsletter that I get emails from like every day, I think, with resources for undocumented students. So if you're at Queens College, this is the space that you need to connect with. Gutman College also has an initiative, and they actually have, similar to the TheDream.Us, they have a full tuition scholarship for undocumented students. And so if you're at Gutman, if your students are coming from Gutman, please be sure to share or sign up here for their listserv. And then lastly, Baruch College is also starting an initiative. They have resources listed on their website and are getting started with kind of doing some programming planning for this population. So those are the centers and the initiatives. As I mentioned, the rest of the liaisons at the campuses are listed on the cuny.edu/immigrant website. You'll see it as kind of one of the table of contents there. And you can click on there, find your campus, and identify who can provide some supports. There's more to come. So I'm working with campus presidents, I'm working with campus liaisons to open similar centers across the CUNY system. And so if you're interested in being a part of this effort, please reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat to make sure that that you can reach out to me directly, and we can figure out how to make one of these centers possible at your campus. You'll notice that none of the community colleges have immigrant student success centers. That is where the majority of our undocumented students start. So if you're at a community college and you're interested in a center, please reach out to me. And so we also have an Instagram account that I encourage folks to check out. CUNY.UISP stands for Undocumented and Immigrant Student Programs. Please follow us. Please share with your students. We share a ton of resources there that are available for undocumented students, and also other campus Instagram accounts and other countrywide Instagram accounts that are relevant to this population. So I see questions in the chat. I think what we have now is a special surprise. We actually do have a student that will be joining us. So I'm going to go ahead and briefly introduce Maria. I'll stop the screen share here, and then I'll ask Hayne to stop the recording.